product provided by Nintendo for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. My sinuses are more packed than an Amazon shipping facility, but not as packed as this video is with your theories for Xenoblade Genesis. We have some absolutely wild ones and some that may be on point. In today's video, let's go over your fan theories for the future of Xenoblade. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and there's something about this world. First up on the docket, we have at Drunk Snow White, great name by the way, who says Anshaw, the world of Xenoblade Genesis, is gonna turn out to be the interior of Mira somehow. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't know how that would work, especially with Chapter 13 of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, probably for Nintendo for that one, but still, despite that, it does sound kind of outlandish. It does sound kind of baffling. I don't personally agree with it, but I also think there's a couple of elements where if it turned out to be the case, there is some world building that was showed in this trailer that kind of co-signs that idea. Maybe not necessarily co-signs, but could be recontextualized with that potential information to have it all make a little bit more sense. And I draw our attention to the final bit of the trailer. We have these like arches, what some people thought could have been like the ring out in Oblivia, though to me, especially with this shot right here, which is of the same rings, by the way. We've covered that in a previous video. Well, those rings to me look a lot like the rings we can find out in Silverloom in Xenoblade Chronicles X. They don't look strictly identical, but there's a lot of similarities, especially when you look at the actual texture work of these rings. And I think quite a few of the discrepancies, at least when it comes to like that element, could be addressed by the change in art style going into Xenoblade Genesis. But there's a lot of very similar elements, from kind of how they curve, how they look constructed, and how they even go into the ocean, or just straight up come out of the ocean like over here. Maybe hard to see it from this perspective, but if we go to the final scene of the trailer, we can see some of these arches come out of the water. And not just that, we also have a lava zone. Lava zones aren't frequent in Xenoblade. We had one in Xenoblade X with Cauldros. Now, is it Cauldros? Probably not. There's definitely something artificial going on with the lava channels itself, like look at the patterns there. As we've covered extensively on this channel, there's some weird like facility, like maybe water treatment facility, which we had an entire quest chain in Xenoblade X about, by the way, that has pipe work that goes into the water here. It's very weird and mysterious. And we also just have a giant spaceship poking out of the world here that looks a lot like the Eldridge Philadelphia class mothership from Xenogears. Now, is it the Eldridge? Probably not, but maybe, just maybe, again, assuming that Xenoblade Genesis takes place in the world of Anshaw, and assuming Anshaw is the interior of Mira, maybe this is what happened to the rest of the White Whale, and that a rather large chunk of it managed to make it and just pierce through the world here. Now, I did see one theory on Twitter that I do kind of agree with, because it looks like, just based on the way the ship is here, it looks like it poked from beneath the surface here and came up, but the impact crater surrounding it looks a lot more like something fell and crashed into the surface here. Again, is the world of Anshaw the interior of Mira? I'm personally not convinced. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some similarities going on with Anshaw to Mira. I'm not personally sold on the idea that this is the interior of Mira, though. If we start to see a bunch of dematerialization zones and, you know, the world just gets deleted by the ghost, then okay, maybe. But it is something interesting to think about and keep in the back of our minds as we get more information down the line. It's one of those situations where right now, I find it to be unfeasible. Infeasible? Unfeasible? Feasible. Take your pick. I've heard it both ways. But if they do go down this route, there are plenty of different elements that could say, hey, there has been some kind of foreshadowing to this. I promised you guys crazy, and I'm going to deliver. Or maybe it's better to say at Xander, your boy, is going to deliver here. I believe they are inside of a spaceship, and if the stars are some sort of Zohar/conduit power source, the world of Anshaw is inside of a fuel tank or engine. Like that one episode of Rick and Morty. There were 12 Zohar emulators. Don't worry, we'll get to that. So what if there were another world with 6 suns suns that has day when Anshaw is in night to keep the power flowing. This is the kind of crazy I'm talking about. I love it. I want more of it. Monolith and Xenoblade love their big plot twists. And there's something weird, something absolutely bizarre going on when it comes to Xenoblade Genesis. What the heck is this game about? No, genuinely, think about it. Let's take a step back and ask ourselves, what's the plot to this game? What's the mission? What's the goal? We have a cute elf girl go to school and get a powerful rock. We all understand there's gonna be something deeper going on here, right? And they kind of hint towards it at the very end of the trailer, that the vengeance of a fallen god had yet to be fulfilled, future video. But still, okay, that gives us an idea. We're gonna have to deal with this vengeance of a fallen god and the ramifications of that. Okay, sure. There's something probably weird going on with the 6 sons of Anshaw. I personally kind of agree with Xander's idea that it's connected to the Zohar/Conduit, at least in some way. I'm not buying for a second that those are actual stars. They're probably like coalesced anima, or maybe even related to like the Ares cores, or they operate under like a similar principle where there's some kind of relic or object that had the conduit goo just poured into them. It's also especially concerning because this giant like yellow-red one just wasn't here before in the trailer, and it's almost like we either formed it or re-sparked it up. As we can see in this part of the trailer, we have the girl doing like the off-scene dance-like thing here, sending a whole bunch of what I imagine are anima little particles up into the sky. We see 5 of the sons of Anshaw, and what is likely the big yellow one being formed right here. Or it's about to go out, and we are giving it the energy it needs to reignite, possibly bringing daytime back, because it does seem as if most of the light here is coming from the big one here, because we have the 5 other stars right here, but it looks like nighttime. But now it's getting brighter, and now it's just daytime. Maybe there's something else working alongside of all of that, but it's a Monolith game. It's a Xenoblade game. Rule of thumb, everything will either go back to the Trinity core processor or the conduit, possibly both. That's just a general good rule of thumb. Now, as for the Zohar emulator bit of the, the theory right here, the Zohar emulator bit, that's from Xenosaga. And as the name kind of suggests, they aren't the original Zohar/conduit. Although they resemble the Zohar, they operate by emulating the wavelengths of the 12 vessels of anima. Things starting to click. We have a world powered by anima, where anima changes and is a massive fact in every facet of life, including warfare. And we also have another term, Vesseli. They were decided by anima and those who could wield its power, warriors known as Vesseli. Vesseli sounds a lot like vessel, doesn't it? Bit of an interesting connection. Is it one for one? Obviously no, but the naming is interesting. And the 12 vessels of anima from Xenosaga draw their power from the original Zohar. So could there be a connection here? Yes, absolutely. Especially after Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition showed us you can essentially drain the power or just take power from the Zohar and put it into something. We go back to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, product provided by Nintendo. When we go to the system settings, we go to Mira Archives. We go over to keywords and we go all the way down to Ares cores declassified. Have to tease you a little bit. Let's go back to the Ares cores. 6 cores installed in the Ares, which command levels of energy. Let me move my fat head, hold on. Vast enough to bend space-time. As such, they are able to warp a given object into another universe. Now let's go down to Ares cores declassified. Ares cores were the product of Void's research, formed by resolving the power of the ultimate matter dubbed the conduit into its component elements. Also, just as a side note, kind of interested me how the rift between worlds kind of has that inside of a sphere kind of structure Anshaw's rocking as well. Not sure there's anything significant in that. Just wanted to point that one out there and just get it out in the open. But whether or not they want to go down the route of the Zohar emulators from Xenosaga and have some kind of conduit equivalent, or just straight up use the Zohar emulator somehow, or if they want to replace their role in the story with the Ares cores, that wouldn't particularly surprise me. Now for this part of the theory. It's really interesting, isn't it? A lot of the Xenoblade Genesis trailer gives off the vibe that this is going to be a high fantasy story. You can look at with the equipment everyone is wearing. We're riding around on animals, isn't that cool? And also you just have people flying around on freaking dragons. That's really dang cool, isn't it? Really cool. But because it's Monolith, then suddenly spaceship or something very similar to looking like a spaceship right here. Now, unless it's a situation, according to this theory, where Anshaw is part of a larger ship, maybe a smaller ship rammed into that ship and punctured into the world of Anshaw here. But supposing the world of Anshaw is actually a simulation, there's kind of precedent for that. No, I'm not talking about Mira. No, I'm not even talking about Ionios. We go back to Xenosaga and the UMN. Think of the UMN like the Matrix. It's not, but think of it something along those lines. The UMN, Unus Mundus Network, One World Network, is a mysterious informational virtual network developed by Vector Industries, yeah, the radio people, that spans the entire universe and its 500,000 planetary systems. Due to being a large decentralized network system, anyone from one of the Galaxy Federation's 500,000 planetary systems can instantaneously connect and talk to another in less than a second. Think of it like a universe expanding internet that you can also just go into if you have the right equipment. But the more I stare at this page, the more I'm like, there's a couple more connections we have going on here. The symbol of the UMN is a snake biting its own tail, also known as the Ouroboros. Yeah, remember that concept from Xenoblade 3? The UMN's mascot is Bunny, a cute bunny rabbit. This thing, where if you've played Xenosaga 2, you are, I was going to say frequently acquainted with, but more like traumatized. Now, hear me out on this one, right? Just like, hear me out. One of the things eating away at me when it comes to Xenoblade Genesis is just, where are the Nopon? I love the Nopon. Where are they? And also, who is this freak, this aberration, this abomination? And it's not one for one or anything. Absolutely, right? However, if this is supposed to be the Xenoblade Genesis version of whatever the heck this bunny thing is from the Unus Mundus network, and it turns out that the world of Anshaw is actually a simulation or just a part of the UMN, or whatever the heck they end up calling it for Xenoblade Genesis, and this guy turns out to be the mascot the entire time and was just playing us all for fools, or maybe he even didn't know, who knows. I'm just saying, it'd be a kind of a cool plot twist. Again, not enough to say anything definitively. We have one trailer, just something to bear in mind. Okay, so I know this next one isn't a theory, it's a question, but I need an excuse to put KOS-MOS in the thumbnail. So we have Ivan Farrell who says, will KOS-MOS have another cameo on any future game? I hope so, because if you have played Xenosaga, bump my mic there, but hold on, I'm trying to reach for my copies of Xenosaga. I gotta do a money spread with these, or a KOS-MOS spread. Actually, let's not call it that. No. If you've played these games, you know how goated KOS-MOS is. One of my favorite characters. Insanely important in the story as well. You would kind of expect for being like the character they always put on the box art for these games. Funnily enough, though, not the main character of Xenosaga, but she is the face of Xenosaga, and she's wildly important. But this is the end of Xenosaga Episode 3, so spoilers for the ending, right? But it's also kind of well known that at the end of Xenosaga 3, a broken and battered KOS-MOS drifts through space, arriving at what we imagine is our solar system, in a scene that feels a lot like the ending of like Future Redeemed, also the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, just saying. And we have that broken and battered KOS-MOS drifting towards Lost Jerusalem, Earth. And that's how the game ends. Like, this is just how it ends. There's no follow-up. There's no continuation. We don't know what happens to KOS-MOS after this point because Xenosaga just stopped, and then Monolith would go on to be picked up by Nintendo, and then we would get to Xenoblade. But, like, the ending of Xenosaga is ripe for continuing the story of KOS-MOS. Don't quote me on this. I think the original plan for Xenosaga was for it to be, like, way more than just 3 games. I think it was, like, 6. Like, 6 or 7. And it would, like, continue the story of KOS-MOS. That could have just been some random dude making crap up on Twitter, possibly, who knows. Don't know how verifiable that rumor is whatsoever, but like it kind of makes sense with the ending of episode 3. The only problem is that like Xenosaga isn't owned by Nintendo or Monolith, it's owned by Bandai Namco, but funnily enough, that hasn't really stopped them. I mean, after all, KOS-MOS is in Xenoblade 2. KOS-MOS is just a blade in Xenoblade 2. Now, this isn't the KOS-MOS we know from Xenosaga. Her blade quest in Xenoblade Xenoblade 2 really tries its best to essentially solidify this a different KOS-MOS, but still, they got the name. They used Vector Industries in Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed. They name-dropped one of the main villains of Xenosaga with Dmitry Yuriev in that same radio scene from Future Redeemed. I don't know how likely it is in the future for them to make KOS-MOS an actual character going forward outside of just like a guest appearance. I don't know if Monolith would be willing to do that. I personally would be a big fan of that because I think KOS-MOS is a great character and I would love to see a continuation of an actual story. Whether or not that's actually feasible and they could work with Bandai Namco in that capacity, it's up in the air. Who knows? Only they do. I would like to see it, though I wouldn't bet the farm on it. But in my heart of hearts, right? In my heart of hearts, man, I hope they can find some way to bring KOS-MOS back, even in some kind of like minor capacity. I want to know what happens, man. I just do. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your own theories, your ideas for what will happen in the future for Xenoblade Genesis. I want your wildest theories. I want your wackiest theories. I want your shots in the dark. I want your Hail Marys. And if you think you're onto something, leave in the comments down below and I may react to it in a future video. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you're hungry for even more Xenoblade theories, you want to talk about Eleanor and you want to talk about cylinders, you should check out this video right here for more. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.